Hi, Brian. I know obviously you're tired of the topic and you've said Tua is our quarterback. That being said, just had one simple question. Obviously, you know what's going on talking to Chris and to Steve Ross. So the question is this: is there any possibility that you guys will acquire a starting caliber quarterback within the next 26 hours before the trade deadline tomorrow?
Barry, I understand the question. I basically answer it every day, the same way. Tua's our quarterback. Any conversations that, I have with Chris, I have with Steve, we keep them internal and, they'll remain that way.
Okay, and then one unrelated thing. Several readers reached out to writers yesterday saying it appeared as though you were calling the defensive plays and not Josh Boyer based on the papers you had in your hand. Were you calling the defensive signals yesterday or was Josh?
No, Josh called the game.
Thank you.
David Lang, WPLG.
Hey, Coach Flo. With the deadline coming up in a day, you're obviously focused on the next game, trying to end this losing streak. But do you talk to the team telling them to avoid it, or is it just something that sort of is natural within a locker room? How do they deal, or how do you tell them to deal with the next 24 hours?
Really today's conversation was about, the game yesterday. And really the focus was there, and corrections from the game yesterday, some obviously mistakes we made, things we did well, things we can build on. Didn't really get into any deadlines or anything like that. My job is to be focused on the guys in our room. And that's the approach I take.
Omar.
I wanted to ask you about the offense's passing game. You guys attempt more passes than everybody but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're second to last in yards per attempt. Is this a byproduct of just the situations that you're in terms of you guys trailing so often, or do you view yourself as a pass-first team?
You always want balance, Omar. It's something that we've talked about. We haven't been able to create the balance that we want for a variety of reasons. Certainly something we put an emphasis on, something we talk about. Some of the games have, score has dictated some of that. As we've talked about, you always want balance. I thought there were some instances, especially early, where we got some positive runs and we just weren't able to sustain it or stay with it. It's probably a better term. It's definitely something we talked about as a staff today. Something that we've talked about in recent, really every week. We need to do a better job of that in the second half of the season.
Cam.
Flo, you mentioned after the game that you kind of just sat there for a while. I'm curious how you've maybe thought and kind of compartmentalized the last 7 games and kind of losing, not going the way you want it to go.
It was disappointing. I think our guys work hard. Our coaches work hard. I think about the people around the building. I think about our fan base. And I want to do better for all those people. I know the team does. So, those are the thoughts that go through my mind. And I just think about what I can do to, get us over the hump, turn the tide. Is it a scheduling thing? Is it a play calling? Do we got to switch to guys' position? Like, what do we got to do? So that's kind of where my thoughts are. And yeah, but disappointing. But at the same time, I'm motivated to get back out there and make the improvements, make the corrections, and turn it around.
I know, if I can follow up there, I know you're a one day at a time guy. Do you allow yourself to ever think big picture, look backwards on maybe what's going on this year or the first 2.5 years in your tenure and try to use any of that to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I try to look back and reflect on some other experiences that are similar. But every year is so different. Every team is so different. The players are different. The year is different. The time, I mean, everything's so different. And to reflect on, maybe an instance where there was, this type of adversity. You think back on it, but you think about, some of the people I was around, and those people, those players. Some of them are different. Some of them are the same. And then you just try to think about the group you have now and what's the best way to motivate the group we have now to turn the tide.
Alan?
Hi, Brian. Can you confirm whether Preston Williams and Sheldrick Redwine will be back at practice this week?
Yeah, they'll be at practice Wednesday.
Thank you.
Omar?
You mentioned that you pulled from some of the adversity that you guys faced, particularly previously. Are you going back to the 2019 season, or are you going back to maybe Boston College, your Patriots tenure?
I mean, I think adversity comes in a lot of different ways, Omar. It's not necessarily just football. As you know, it's, I could be pulling from a lot of things that I've dealt with personally. And I mean, that's normally what I do. From a football standpoint, obviously, yes, probably the 19 season. But as far as just, getting knocked down, picking yourself back up, I mean, there's definitely been some other instances that we all pull from when we're dealing with adversity. This isn't as hard as this. This isn't as I picked myself up from this situation, that from the situation. I know the players have dealt with that. I know each one of you has dealt with that in some form or fashion. And I don't think it's just, a specific season.
And if I'm sorry, go ahead, finish.
No, I was I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
it does answer my question. I wanted to ask, you guys keep talking about, I guess the tide needs to start rolling from a positive standpoint, and cleaning up a lot of mistakes. How close do you feel that you guys are based on your last performance?
I think we did, some good things yesterday. It's a good team. I thought we played them tough. I thought we played hard for 60 minutes. I thought there was certainly some missed opportunities, on our part to, score some points that, we would have liked to have later in the game. Obviously, there was, some opportunities to make some plays, and we didn't make them. So from that standpoint, I do see some things we can build on, but every week's different. Every opponent's different. Every week's different. So we got to start over. This week with our preparation for Houston, and try to have a good week.
Barry?
Hi, Brian. How puzzling or perplexing has it been to you that there hasn't been more of a pass rush? I know you've had pressures, but they haven't been converted into high sack numbers, or obviously he's made turnovers as last year. It seems puzzling just because Butler was a 4-sack-a-year guy consistently in New England, hasn't had one here. Phillips, we know the pass rusher he was in Miami. Ogba, we know his record. Is it puzzling to you that you haven't seen bigger sack numbers overall as a defense?
I think we've had this conversation, Barry, on the sacks versus the pressures versus the effect on the quarterback. I think yesterday, that we had some of an effect on the quarterback. I thought, Josh Allen did a good job of kind of scrambling around and getting the ball off. And there were some instances where we were on him, didn't get him down. But there was an effect on the quarterback. And there's been some other games where we haven't had as much of an effect on the quarterback. We've got to do a better job. I think that's always, at the top of the priority list as far as, how do we affect the offense? We want to affect the quarterback, or really more so the offense, the passing game. We want to affect the quarterback. It's always a point of emphasis, and we need to do a better job there. But I thought yesterday, Josh did a nice job of calling some pressures and getting Allen off the spot in some instances. Didn't get him all the way down for sacks, but created some quicker throws that in some instances were benefited us.
And one other quick thing, Fuller and Dieter, Brian, any update as to whether you think they'll be able to practice this week?
Those guys are still week to week. We won't see them this week, Barry.
Thank you.
Cam.
Flo, I can ask you about the offensive line development. We've actually kind of a few times throughout the year about that. But when you evaluate some of the young guys and where they are this season, are you happy? Or what sort of would describe how you feel about Austin, Robert, some of this first and second year guys who you've had to play a lot?
I think they've played well in spurts. They haven't played so well in some other situations, and I think that's kind of the development of a young player. I think Austin at guard's been, I think that's been a good transition for him. I think that's the right spot for him. Same thing with Rob Hunt. It's a young group. They, the experience of playing and with crowd noise yesterday was with that type of crowd noise and silent cadence. That's something that was definitely a learning experience for them yesterday. And I think we could have been better as far as our execution on some of those things. But overall, I think they're all improving. I think they're all making progress, and I'm looking forward to watching them improve more as the season progresses.
Hal.
Brian, hope you can hear me okay. I'm at the airport.
I got you.
Okay, good. I want to ask you about a sequence late in the game. You were out of timeouts. The outcome was pretty much decided. Buffalo still, rather than, I guess, a traditional thing to do there is kneel down. They scored instead and went for two. Did that catch your eye? Did it get the attention of your players that they chose to go that route?
No, look, their job is to score. Our job is to stop them. So regardless of score, regardless of time in the game, that's kind of, my approach. And, our job is to go out there and stop them.
Okay, thanks.
All right, we'll take two more, Andy and then Alan. Go ahead, Andy.
Hey, Brian. So you've said several times that Tua is your quarterback. If that's the case, why can't you rule out acquiring another starter?
I think when I say Tua's the quarterback, I don't know what more I can say. And that's kind of, the way I've handled this and approached this really for the last few weeks.
Alan.
Hi, Brian. For record-keeping purposes, I was remiss in not asking you, with Redwine, was that also a disciplinary issue that he wasn't on the trip?
Yes.
This is the Big O Show.